My time as a health coach, I think one of the most dangerous beliefs that I've had men express to me, not just as a friend, but as a coworker, as a coach, as a family member, is that they don't really care about taking care of their body. And this is something that we are not inherently taught as men. Sometimes we don't have the right. They don't teach it to you in school. They may give you a few things about nutrition and exercise. They may try to force you to do things in gym, but sometimes you'd rather just sit on the bleachers. We're not given the context to have that sense of care for our well-being in our bodies. And I see it more as like people talk to me and they see their bodies, mostly men, they see their bodies as an extension of doing. And they put themselves through so many different situations. I mean, look at the different jobs out there, like construction workers or jobs where you're constantly on your feet, you're always doing things, good physical activity, but sometimes when you do it for 10 to 12 hours, or on the converse, when you sit for 8 to 10 hours, that also over time has adverse effects. And I could get into what the modern job market and economy does to men in general and to their bodies and how much it deteriorates them over time. But in that deterioration, we never learn how to take care of it, what to do, what to do about like nutrition or exercise, because that can seem like such a large task, and they just don't care. And I'm stuck here wondering why they don't care. And it's something that I've failed at as a coach because for a long time, I thought people just needed another diet, another way to think about calorie restriction, and another way to just get more activity in. Hey, just get more steps in. Hey, just do this, do that, do that, right? Tips, giving advice. And what I should have been doing the whole time is getting to the belief. Okay, how do you believe about yourself in regards to your health? What do you think about it? Do you care? Do you think there's a point to it? I think these questions matter. They matter because they are an extension of how we behave. Okay, everything comes down to how we believe. If you are religious, you believe in a God, and thus you'll pray, you'll study the Bible, you'll go to church, maybe. If you believe in a certain ideology in terms of like political, let's say you're a leftist, right? You probably identify as a Democrat. You may vote toward those policies. You may have different beliefs surrounding how you'd like to see the world operate, and you'll make votes for that. And you tend to just operate like someone. I'm explaining this very poorly. I've not really thought about it. I'm doing this very unscripted and uncouth. But the point is that we have a system in our minds that acts on what's called the limbic system, and it's connected to your nervous system, right? And we collect so much data in our lives, and the unconscious part of ourselves is really good at picking up on that. And the thing about it is, we also have that, but we also have another system that's our conscious control. Think of the previous one like autopilot, like the things you just do automatically, your habits, your behaviors, whatever. And then your conscious control, where that's like your prefrontal cortex, and that's how you make deliberate actions. That's how you live intentionally. That's how you like, that's that spurt of motivation that you get to do well again. Like, okay, I'm gonna go get some good groceries. I'm gonna start doing more steps. I'm gonna start working out again. And then things fall apart because those old belief patterns come back when life gets hard. And it's the beliefs, it's how you talk to yourself. If you think you're lazy, you're gonna be lazy. If you think you're not worth taking care of yourself, you're not gonna do the things to take care of yourself. You're not gonna go out of your way because you believe it is going out of your way. And I think the one thing that I wanna try to work on getting better at in coaching with people is getting them to understand that in the first month or 2, when you're making these conscious decisions, when you're making decisions with the prefrontal cortex instead of your autopilot system, is that it's going to feel like I have to. Okay. It's not going to feel like you get to do it. You see what I'm saying? Let me give you an example for me. I always felt for the longest time in my 20s that I had to exercise. It's something I had to do. And thus, that's why I was consistently in and out of the gym. You had to be good for a few weeks or a couple months even. But something would happen in life, I get a new routine, and exercise gets docked down on the priority level, and I just exist whatever I want to do. I play video games if I want to, or read, do whatever I want to do at home, whatever. And it turns into I guess I have to go back. Whereas now, exercise is a get to. And so my belief about exercise now is that, oh man, I get to go downstairs and do some pull ups and push ups and squats. I get to go out on a walk today and listen to music or do whatever I want to, listen to a podcast or YouTube video. I get to do it. And I remember how it makes me feel afterwards too. That high, it's real. And you can have it. It just takes a little bit of time to get there. But how do you bridge that gap, right? What do you do about that? How could you even think of thinking of eating better as something you get to do than you have to do? Okay. So I want to introduce something to you called the agency ladder. All right. I'm going to draw it out real quick. I've already got it right here. So these are some diagrams that I've written, and I'm going to start explaining more on this channel on how we start to make this work for you. Okay. So the agency ladder works like this. You start down here at awareness. Okay. So you're in a passenger state of mind, or I'm probably going to change it to autopilot. But what ends up happening is once you're aware of the pain, like, for example, you see the problem, okay? You don't really care about your health, like you try, but you're just like not that crazy about it. Then you're going to identify some micro choices, okay? And that's where you're going to start to intentionally choose what you're going to do. You're going to find one controllable action that you can do. And that's where small action creates agency. And agency is going to be your ability to believe that you're in control of your destiny, your fate, your body, okay? A lot of times people go through life thinking, well, they externalize the blame to outside influences, their environment, the people around them, the state of things, how terrible things are, the grocery prices, all that stuff, and they hinge on that as a reason to not try. Okay, but the agency ladder is going to help you reinvent what you may believe to be true by reintroducing that you do have control. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to help you make it get from a have to a get to, because we have to think of the smallest have to that's going to make sense to where you're at right now. And then eventually you go to the top. Okay. So let's go through it again. Aware, okay, I've not been taking care of myself. I've not been doing the right things. I'm kind of just stuck at the same weight, whatever. You're going to identify a micro choice. So that's one controllable action. And that action could be getting about 8,000 steps a day. That action could be getting your fruit and vegetable servings in that day. That could look like getting your protein in as well. And notice how I'm not paying attention to weight or calories. Okay, let's get away from the numbers for once. Well, I know steps, but we're numbers, but let's get away from the numbers and let's get towards the actions, okay? Because the actions are what really matter. It's the small things, okay? And then you introduce and you increase your level of them as you go along. But let's say you go up on the ladder here to the repeated behavior. So you just keep doing it again. You go through this process, like I said, it's about 1 to 2 months, where you build different skills, you're observing your environment, and motivation's all starting to come together because it's going to start to turn into a habit. And that's the thing about it. You got to repeat it enough. You got to have that faith that that's going to work, and you repeat it enough that it's going to work. And then once you get up to here, you're almost close to having your belief changed. but you need a little bit more evidence. And this is where you start to believe that you can influence your life, you can influence your behavior. You can influence the actions that happen to you no matter what life decides to throw at you. And that's where you're starting to prove that you can do this. And this is where belief really starts to change. Okay. It's not fully there because the last step here is where you become. And this is where you start to align your identity closer to yourself. This is who I am. This is who I'm becoming. And remember this, identity is the byproduct of accumulated evidence. So you have to accrue enough evidence in order to really truly believe. Okay? Essentially, this whole process is going from I can't help it to, well, I can prove that I can. Okay? You're going to rebuild that belief through small proof and start to reframe failure as you go, because you will fail. I've failed many times on my journey. And you go through plateaus, you go through periods where you just don't want to do anything. It's all completely normal and natural. Okay? And please, please do not let that be a demotivator. Okay? That's how the agency ladder works. That's how it turns from a get to, a have to a get to. And then when you think of it as a get to, then you start to see yourself differently. Your beliefs change. Okay, you no longer see yourself as like a lazy bum or whatever belief that you were told to as a kid or just in life that you told yourself over and over. Gradually, it's like, okay, I am this. When I see myself in the mirror, I see myself as Wellness Jordan. I wasn't always Wellness Jordan. I was, lazy video game Jordan. I don't know. A poor example. I still play video games, and part of me is still lazy, but I still make time because doing the things that keep me well are above the threshold of doing whatever I want to do with my time. You see what I'm saying? And it's just natural. It's just autopilot. Those are my new passenger habits. Because if I did feel like a passenger in my own body, I just didn't feel like I have control. I'm now feeling like a passenger that has control. Okay, but I had to switch into driver mode just a little bit. I had a direction to go in, and I had to take myself there. Okay, with enough time, with enough persistence, and enough idea on the right things to do. Okay, because it does matter. A lot of people spin their wheels trying out different things, but really all you need to do is stick with the steps. Stick with maybe 2 to 3 meals a day if you're losing weight, maybe 1 to 3, and continue to do the right things with getting a good protein in, getting some good fruits, your vegetables, and just paying attention to how you feel in response to that. Okay? Calorie deficits do matter, but if you're not at the point where you're just not living that lifestyle yet, and you're not managing the stressors that come along with it, that worrying about deficits, maybe just hold off until you get the fundamentals down. But then when you get the fundamentals down, eating into calorie deficit's going to be nothing. Okay? So, beliefs, identity. Get to know these things. Sit with them. Okay? This is the stage that we're in now with health and wellness stuff. Okay? It's no longer about getting the new diet in or following the new exercise trend. We have all the information we could ever want, we could ever need. Well, what will you do with that information, right? And how will you operate it? How will you become somebody different with that information? Okay, hope what I've expressed to you today has influenced something within you and got you to think a little bit. That's all I want you to do. Just think a little bit differently, all right? And stop the negative self-talk. It only helps reinforce what you currently feel to a heightened level. All right. That's all I got for you. See ya.